When a monarch takes their final breath, the world sees headlines. But behind palace gates, something far more intense begins. A quiet, precise choreography the public never witnesses. And for King Charles, that plan already has a name: Operation Menai Bridge. It's the moment every royal guard trains for. Yet hopes never comes. What do they do first? Who do they inform? And why is their role more emotional and more dangerous than most people realize? Tonight, we step inside the protocol no one talks about. Before we unravel this hidden operation, feel free to tap, like if you enjoy deep dives into royal history, and subscribe so you never miss a new royal family story. And if you know someone who loves William, Kate, or the guards, share this with them. It helps the channel a ton. Now let's continue. Nobody wants to imagine the moment a king's life quietly slips away. Yet inside the walls of Buckingham Palace, this possibility is never ignored. It's planned, rehearsed, and understood down to the smallest detail. For the royal guard, the instant King Charles takes his final breath is not simply a change of monarch. It is the collapse of one world and the immediate rise of another. And in that split second, their duty becomes something heavier, something almost sacred. It begins with silence, and not the calm kind. This is a silence soaked in gravity. The moment the attending physician confirms the king's passing, coded phrase is spoken aloud, not dramatic, not poetic, but clinical. And yet for the guards, it feels like someone has cut the rope holding up an entire nation. The phrase triggers a machine that has been waiting for decades to start moving. Operation Menai Bridge has begun. Few people realize how fast everything moves from here. There is no pause for grief or disbelief. The royal guard, who have stood beside the king during ceremonies, foreign visits, and public joy, must now become the quiet guardians of the transition. Their first responsibility is internal: secure the location. This doesn't mean danger is expected, it means nothing is allowed to be uncertain. The guards ensure access points are controlled, hallways are cleared, and only authorized personnel can enter or leave. Even in sorrow, their discipline holds. Imagine being one of them. You've sworn to protect the sovereign for years, and in that instant, the person you're guarding is no longer alive. What goes through your mind? Do you think of Charles as a father, a grandfather, a man who carried Britain through storms? Or do you hear your training speaking louder than your emotions? Some guards have admitted quietly and anonymously that the mixture of duty and heartbreak is unlike anything else. You don't get to pause. You don't get to cry. You stand straighter than ever. The immediate next step is notification, and not the kind the public sees. Before any headline, before any television announcement, before even many government officials hear the news, it is the guards and a handful of senior figures who make sure the information moves through the correct channels. A secure line is opened. A message is passed. It's not shaky, not emotional, precise. The guards are trained to keep their voices steady, even as their hands may tremble. This is the quiet chapter of Operation Menai Bridge, the one the world never witnesses. The room filled with men and women staring at the king's lifeless form, knowing they cannot break. There is a loneliness to this moment. The guards have seen Charles in laughter, in ceremony, in moments of private humanity. But now, they must be the first to say goodbye, and the last allowed to react. When the senior royal household confirms the timeline, the guards escort the physician, secure documentation, and prepare for the next stage, the protection of the king's body. It sounds clinical, but the meaning runs deeper. This is respect. This is loyalty. This is a final act of service. They position themselves not as soldiers guarding an asset, but as guardians protecting a life story that has just reached its final page. There is, strangely, a rhythm to all of this. The guards know exactly where to stand, how to move, what doors to watch. Their boots feel heavier, their breaths feel slower. Their minds are sharp but weighed down by the knowledge that history is unfolding right in front of them. Everything they've rehearsed for years, quietly, meticulously, is now real. And while all this happens behind the scenes, the world outside remains unaware. People pass by the palace gates. Tourists take photos. Phones buzz in pockets. And not a single person realizes that a nation's heart has stopped beating. That contrast, the loud normalcy outside and the aching stillness inside, is one of the strangest parts of Operation Menai Bridge. Meanwhile, deep inside the palace, A small group prepares for the arrival of the next key figure, the newly elevated monarch. When Charles dies, William instantly becomes king, even before a single announcement is made. But the world doesn't know it yet, and the guards must now protect not only the late sovereign, but the living one who inherits everything in the next breath. William, whether he is with his family, traveling, or attending a private event, is contacted through a secure, coded chain. The message isn't poetic, doesn't need to be. It's a sentence that will mark the divide between his life as a prince and his life as king. When he hears it, he becomes the central figure the guards must protect at all costs. And here's something many people overlook. This moment is emotionally crushing for William. He is losing his father and gaining a crown at the same time. Two worlds collide inside him, grief and duty, and there is no space for either to settle. But the machine of monarchy doesn't slow. The guards are already repositioning, recalculating, adjusting their routes, their posts, their responsibilities. Inside the palace, a cold reality takes shape. Everything now belongs to transition. Every corridor becomes a channel. Every guard becomes a pillar. The room where Charles lies must be entered only by those essential to the operation. The guards maintain the perimeter with an almost reverent stillness. They know this isn't just security. This is history. This is tradition. This is the last protection they will ever give the man they've served. Some might wonder, do the guards ever feel fear during all of this? Not fear of danger, fear of getting it wrong. The protocols are unforgiving because the symbolism must be perfect. The eyes of the world will soon turn to London, and every step the guards take will reflect the stability of the crown. A single misstep could create confusion, rumors, even panic. So they stand firm, they breathe through their tension. They become the steady hands holding Britain's emotional weight. And then comes the moment that breaks even the strongest among them. The royal drape being prepared, a symbol that says a monarch's life has ended. When that fabric unfolds, the air changes. Even without tears, even without words, the sorrow deepens. The guards feel it. They just cannot show it. UT side, life continues. Inside, a kingdom shifts. The guards move with a precision tuned by centuries. And in the quiet heart of Buckingham Palace, where the world's noise cannot reach the final chapter of King Charles's, life blends into the first chapter of a new reign, all under the watchful, unshaken eyes of the royal guard.
When that first hour ends, the world will finally hear the announcement. But by then, the guards will already have lived an eternity of history. When the news of the king's passing begins moving to the palace like a controlled whisper, the royal guard switches from solemn stillness to a new phase of precision, a phase they call the chain. It isn't written on public documents, and it isn't announced in ceremonies. But every guard knows it, feels it, and fears the weight of it. This chain is the invisible spine of Operation Menai Bridge. It starts with one simple truth. No chaos can enter this moment. Not a rumor, not an unexpected visitor, not a misplaced step. The monarchy depends on order, especially when a crown has gone cold. For the guards, the silence surrounding their duty is not emptiness. It's a shield they must maintain without cracks. The first link in the chain is internal communication. Their radios stay mostly quiet, but every message spoken must follow a strict pattern. No names are said carelessly. No phrases are used that could spark confusion. Even the tone is regulated. Calm, low, almost eerily controlled. The outside world will soon be shaken, but inside these walls, every syllable must land steady as a heartbeat. Then comes a shift. Not a physical shift in position, a shift in authority. The captain of the guard steps forward, taking command with an expression carved from discipline. His voice is level, carrying the kind of weight only a soldier who has rehearsed this moment 1,000 times can. He doesn't give a dramatic speech. He doesn't confirm the emotion everyone is holding back. He simply issues orders that run like electricity through the ranks. Guards rotate posts with quiet footsteps. Every doorway now matters. Every hallway becomes a channel that must remain untouched by confusion. And the strange part? Even though everything is happening at high speed, it feels slow. Heavy, like time is trudging through thick air. One of the most intense duties at this stage is controlling internal movement. This sounds simple, but it means deciding who may enter the room where Charles lies and who cannot. And that responsibility, though executed with perfect professionalism, weighs on the guards in ways no training can truly prepare them for. Imagine standing before people who have served the king for decades, advisors, staff, even friends, and have to say, "I'm sorry, you can't go in." There is no cruelty in it, only protocol. But still, the eyes of those turned away stay with the guard long after the doors close. Meanwhile, senior figures of the household begin to gather, moving like shadows through private corridors. They exchange hushed words, sign documents, and prepare the transition that will soon grip the entire Commonwealth. But while they make decisions, the guards control the environment. They are the silent arms holding the palace steady. There's a moment here, one most people never hear about, when the guards must secure the late king's personal items. It's a deeply sensitive task. Not everything gets touched, of course, but sensitive documents, secure communications devices, seals, and sometimes even handwritten notes must be placed under controlled access. The process is done quickly, respectfully, and without a single unnecessary word. It is not about invading privacy. It is about protecting legacy. As this is happening outside the palace gates, a quiet tension begins to simmer. Even before the public announcement, the mood changes. Regular officers and guards standing at the exterior notice small signs, a sudden increase in official cars, hushed exchanges between senior police, subtle shifts in posture, and the public notices them noticing. A few people linger. A hush falls over tourists who have been laughing moments before. Something is happening. They just don't know what. Inside the guard room, where generations of soldiers have stood before them, a new set of challenges is unfolding. They must prepare for the immediate reallocation of protection. This is one of the most complex aspects of the chain. The moment the king dies, the focus does not stay on him. It pivots sharply to the new monarch, William. This transition is both logistical and emotional. Guards who have spent years understanding Charles's routines, preferences, vulnerabilities, and public patterns must now switch to William. Instantly. There is no training day, no briefing session, no adjustment period. One heartbeat ends, and another becomes the center of national security. This requires a level of adaptability that is almost inhuman, but the guard is trained for exactly this. The escort routes change. The security detail plans are reassigned. The vehicles are prepared in specific formations. The guard shifts from protecting a king who has passed to protecting a king who has just been born in duty. But there's an emotional undertone here no one outside their circle can ever fully grasp. Their grief cannot exist yet, not even in private. The palace is a place of protocol first, emotion second. And in these hours, emotion has no place. There is also a chilling practicality the guards must manage, restricting leaks. In the age of smartphones, one whisper can become a global headline in minutes. It is the guards who must prevent staff from wandering, phones from ringing in the wrong places, and anyone, even unintentionally, letting a hint of truth slip before the official announcement. Not out of secrecy, but out of respect. The king's passing must be shared with the world in the proper way, following centuries of tradition. But perhaps the most human part of this chain of duty comes when the guards prepare for the moment the late king's body will be transported. Even though it happens later in the operation, preparations begin almost immediately. This includes mapping the secure path through corridors, ensuring that the passage is clear, and confirming that the ceremonial personnel will have space to perform their roles. This is where history meets duty. Every step has been done before by those who guarded monarchs long gone. There is something quietly heartbreaking about watching a guard straighten a corridor rug or adjust a candle that's not even lit, all because the path must look perfect for a king's final journey. These tiny gestures, these almost invisible actions, are woven with devotion. The guards don't speak about it. They don't need to. Their silence says everything. As the chain reaches its midpoint, the palace becomes a controlled heartbeat. Every guard breathes in synchrony. Every movement feels coordinated. And yet, beneath the flawless discipline, one truth lingers. They are still human. They still feel the magnitude of what is happening. But their job in these hours is not to feel. It is to hold the nation steady while the world prepares to change forever. This is a silent chain of duty, the backbone of Operation Menai Bridge, and without it, everything else would crumble. When the clock quietly turns from one reign to the next, the world doesn't hear the shift, but William does. Sometimes the message reaches him at home, sometimes during an engagement, sometimes in the quiet moments of ordinary life that suddenly become extraordinary. There is no warning, no gentle lead-in. A single coded phrase is delivered to him, calm and clinical, and with those few words, the man who was Prince of Wales becomes the King of the United Kingdom. This moment, though rehearsed by officials for decades, is not rehearsed by the heart. William's first breath as monarch is often imagined as a moment of triumph, but the reality is far more human. His father is gone, his role is transformed, and somewhere deep inside, two emotions collide with force that could break a lesser man, grief and duty. And yet, before he could even process the news, Operation Menai Bridge shifts around him like a living organism. The guards reorganize instantly. Advisors move with purpose. Phones, once silent, begin buzzing in coordinated waves. William becomes the center of gravity in a system built to rotate around the monarchy itself. And standing beside him, steady, unshaken, anchored in a way the country has come to trust, is Catherine. Kate does not wear a crown, but she carries a different type of weight. She understands immediately that this moment isn't just history. It's a turning point for their family, their children, and the future they didn't expect to confront so soon. And yet her presence is one of calm clarity. She knows where William's mind will drift, to memories of his mother, to the lessons his father taught him, to the unbearable truth that the world will soon be watching his first steps as king. For a brief moment, away from cameras and ceremony, William and Kate speak quietly. No advisors, no officials, just two people absorbing a seismic shift. She often says nothing, because she doesn't need to. Her hand on his arm, her steady gaze, her quiet nod, these become the first pillars of support he receives as monarch. But there is no time to linger in reflection. Operation Menai Bridge does not wait for tears. The first wave of security reassignment begins. The Royal Guard protection of William now changes in scale, intensity, and proximity. Overnight, he becomes the most critical figure in the Commonwealth. Guards who once walked several paces behind now step into a tighter formation. Additional units are redirected. Entrance points are sealed. His movements are logged down to the second. This is the part most people never see. The sudden tightening of the invisible shield around William and Kate. Their home becomes a control perimeter. The guards know every window, every angle, every risk. Vehicles are repositioned, convoys rearranged. And each guard, regardless of rank, feels a new weight of their duties settle onto their shoulders. Meanwhile, word begins to reach senior government officials. A few encrypted calls travel through private channels. And though the public still doesn't know, a storm is building beneath the polished surface of state machinery. William remains calm, remarkably so. Those closest to him often remark that his strength lies not in loud decisions, but in quiet steadiness. And in this hour, that steadiness becomes the anchor Britain needs, even before the announcement is made. Still, he is human. In moments when the room empties and the noise fades, his eyes drift. He thinks of his father sitting beside him at state openings, teaching him about constitutional duty, reminding him that modern monarchy is built not on power, but on service. He thinks of Charles not as a king, but as the man who guided him to the most public childhood on earth, who protected him in the darkest moments, who wanted him to be more than a figurehead, a leader. But no monarch steps into their reign alone. Kate remains by his side, preparing quietly for what comes next. Her role changes too, in ways both symbolic and deeply personal. She knows that every movement, every step she takes in the coming hours will shape public confidence in the transition. She will not falter. As preparations continue, the guards begin planning for William's formal arrival at the palace, if he is not already there. Every second is calculated. They map the motorcade path. They position security units with flawless precision. They rehearse, even in this moment, for any possibility. A monarch's first journey after accession is not just symbolic. It is a test of readiness, a signal to the world that the crown is stable. And Kate, aware of the cameras that will soon capture every expression, every gesture, ensures that her presence reflects calm unity. She has stood before the public countless times, but this time is different. She is now the consort to a grieving son who must become a king before he is allowed to mourn like a child. Then comes the emotional shift that many people overlook. The question of how to tell their children. George, Charlotte, and Louis will wake in a world that has changed. Their grandfather is gone. Their father is now the king. And one day, George will inherit the same path. William and Kate must now balance the weight of a nation with the softness of parenthood. It is perhaps the most human contradiction in monarchy, and one of the most heartbreaking. But the hours move quickly. The operation advances. Advisors begin drafting the accession wording. Officials prepare black-edge announcements. And the moment William enters the palace for the first time as king, the guards snap into a formation unlike any before. Their salute is sharper, their steps slower. Their eyes carry the respect of centuries. Inside, William meets with the highest officials of state. His voice is steady, though his heart has barely had time to adjust. He speaks with the dignity expected of a monarch, but the humanity of a son who loved his father deeply. And Kate stands near him, not overshadowing, not absorbing the spotlight, but strengthening the moment with her presence. The palace begins to transform around them. Carpets are laid differently. Seating is arranged for incoming dignitaries. Rooms are prepared for briefings. Every inch of the building feels the weight of transition, and through it all, the guards observe with silent respect, because they know that in the hours ahead, William's grief will never be fully private. The world will look to him for steadiness, for leadership, for reassurance that the monarchy remains unbroken. And Kate, through her calm strength, will help hold that image together. But no matter how composed they appear, the truth beneath the surface remains painfully real. A father has died. A son has become a king. A family has changed forever. And the guards, the silent watchers of royal history, must now protect the man who carries the future of the crown. The moment the announcement is prepared, a stillness settles over Buckingham Palace unlike any other. It is not silence. There are footsteps, whispered instructions, rustles of ceremonial fabric. But it feels deeper than silence. It feels like the air itself is holding its breath. Britain stands on the edge of history, and inside the palace, the royal guards have final line smoothing that edge, ensuring nothing breaks as the story turns from one monarch to the next. Outside the gates, the crowd begins to gather. Some arrive out of instinct, others because they sense a shift in the air. News outlets are preparing statements. Reporters are positioning cameras, and a low murmur builds like a distant wave. They don't yet know the words that are about to be spoken, but they know something has happened, something that will change the face of the nation. Inside, the royal guards begin their most emotionally complex assignment, preparing the palace for the public moment of truth. There is a particular kind of weight that comes with guarding a monarch who has passed. It is not a threat-based duty. It is a reverence-based one. Guards take their positions knowing they are standing between the king's memory and the outside world. They become the shield that preserves dignity, the silent presence that signals stability even when hearts are heavy. Every guard knows where to stand, how to hold their posture, how to step in unison. But on a day like this, their training carries an emotional undercurrent that no drill can truly prepare them for. Many of them have served Charles for years. They know his voice, his stride, his laugh, the way he nodded at them during ceremonies. And now, even as their faces remain unreadable, the ache sits somewhere deep behind their eyes. The official announcement is scheduled with minute-by-minute precision. Senior figures gather in the private corridors. The wording is checked again and again, not because anything is uncertain, but because history demands perfection. Once the timing is exact, once the papers are ready, once the cameras outside begin to steady, a signal moves through the palace. It is time. A guard steps into position at the courtyard, holding the framed announcement. This moment, small and simple, is one of the most iconic in British tradition. The notice will be placed on the easel outside the palace gates, just as it has been for monarchs before. The guard carrying it walks with kind of slow dignity, each step deliberate, almost ceremonial. The other guards flank the area, forming a tight perimeter as the announcement is placed. And then the world finally learns the truth. News presenters pause. Crowds go silent. Phones buzz in waves across the country. In living rooms, cafes, and offices, people hear the words, "The king has died." And in that same instant, they hear the next truth: William is now king. The emotional split across the nation is profound. Grief for Charles, awe for William, shock at the change. And for the guards, this is where their next role begins, protecting the country's confidence. They stand straighter. They maintain absolute composure. Their posture is not just discipline. It is reassurance. People look to them to read the stability of the crown. And the guards give them exactly what Britain needs: steadiness. Meanwhile, inside, William prepares for his first formal duties as monarch. The guards reposition to protect him and Kate as they move through newly arranged corridors. Advisors provide briefings, documents, and protocols. But the emotional truth is still raw. The palace is filled with the paradox of mourning and transition. William meets key officials, each interaction carefully surrounded by security. The guards check each entrance, every line of sight, every possibility. Their presence is soft enough not to intrude, firm enough not to falter. It is a delicate balance, one few will ever understand. As William prepares to deliver his first address as king, the atmosphere becomes almost sacred. The guards outside ready themselves for the crowd's reaction. The ones inside help secure the room, adjusting positions with practiced precision. And when William steps forward to speak, he carries not just the sorrow of losing a father, but the responsibility of leading a nation through its most fragile moment. His speech, though not long, resonates deeply. He honors Charles with dignity, speaks of service and continuity, and promises a steadiness the country hopes for. Kate watches with quiet strength. She is not only supporting a grieving husband, she is supporting a king stepping into a role shaped by centuries. As soon as the speech ends, another wave of responsibilities begins. There are meetings with the Prime Minister, coordination with Commonwealth leaders, and preparations for the Accession Council. Each movement William makes, each room he enters, must be secured by the guards with flawless efficiency. They control access, monitor routes, and maintain heightened awareness. Hours pass, but for the guards, time does not feel linear. It moves in controlled bursts. Stand still, move now, tighten formation, hold position. And behind each action lies a quiet truth. They are witnessing history from inches away. As night begins to fall, the palace transforms once more. Candles are lit. Black-edged documents are prepared. Rooms for dignitaries are arranged. The guards begin nighttime rotations, their silhouettes standing in solemn lines against the dim glow of palace lights. The king's body has not yet begun its ceremonial journey, but preparations are underway. Guards rehearse routes. They stand in empty halls, imagining the movement that will soon take place, the final path of the sovereign they served. Their boots echo softly on the marble floors, each sound a reminder that the monarchy shifts not in loud decorations, but in footsteps. Outside, flowers begin appearing at the gates. Notes, drawings from children, small tokens of gratitude. And still the guards stand, never moving more than they must, the embodiment of respect. Within the palace, William and Kate retreat for a short moment of privacy. Not to rest, because rest is impossible, but to breathe. It is in these small pauses that the reality sinks in. Charles is gone. Their lives will never return to the way they were. And the world is already looking to them for guidance. The guards understand that their duty extends beyond security. They guard the stability of a process older than memory. They guard the dignity of a family navigating sorrow. They guard the symbolism of continuity, the reassurance that Britain, even in its grief, stands on steady ground. As dawn begins to stretch across London, the palace prepares for the ceremonies of the coming days. The guard shifts change one last time before the procession preparations begin. Their faces remain calm. Their shoulders remain straight. Their duty remains unbroken. And in the quiet heart of Buckingham Palace, where tradition and emotion intertwine, one truth sits heavier than all the others. A king has passed. A new one has risen. And the royal guards, silent, steadfast, unshakable, have held the nation together through the moment history changed.